Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. We've got 51 people registered today, and we've got 3, 6, 8 so far. So I'm going to give it another 5-10 minutes as usual. Thank you for joining, and sit back and relax where we hear the little noise when people are in. Hello, everyone. For the one who just joined, we're just waiting until 1:05, so that everyone arrives, and then we start the presentation. So sit back, relax, and look forward to our time together. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm going to start our demonstration. First of all, thank you for taking the time to join us today. We still have people joining, and it will make this little noise when people are arriving, so I apologize for that. My name is Martin, and for those who don't know me yet, I am an ASANA consultant, and today I'm here to talk to you about cross-team collaboration. So as I mentioned, I work for Platinum Partner. We are a specialist in low-code, no-code solutions. And so what we do is we focus on streamlining businesses using solutions that enables you to automate and simplify workflows and processing of projects and tasks in your organization. So we work in Australia, New Zealand, and Philippines, and we offer you services around deployments, training as we have today, consulting, managed services, We also help you to find finance solutions if you need to for your projects, and we work on integrating your tools together so that everything works seamlessly. We work with a variety of partners. Today we'll be speaking about ASANA, but we also work with partners such as Make, who helps us to connect applications, FormStack, who helps us to set up online forms, e-sign, and other tools online to streamline paperless processes, but also tools like TimeCamp or Time Doctor that we use for capturing time and measuring efficiency, or DocuSign, which I don't need to name, or Salesforce. I hope my good today. We had some issue last week with the quality of the sound. So before I'll start, I'll probably just ask you if you want to let me know in the chat if the sound is good today, if you hear me well. Yes, I have a thumb up. Yes, oh, good. That's good to hear. So let's go. Let's go. Thank you. Hello, Tracy. Good to have you again. There is some funny elements with my fake background here, so I'm going to remove it. Joining me today in the team, we also have Amy, who organized the event for us. I have next to me Julian, who is also working in our team, and Mr. Marek, who is in charge of our support and will be here to take questions after in our support if you have any. I'm just going to remove my virtual background so you see our office, which is not as glamorous as the fake background. Now, today we're going to work together. Those sessions are support sessions, which we have brought a team to actually make them more interesting. So they are trainings, but they're also here for you to practice. All of you today already have an ASANA account, so I encourage you to participate during the session, ask questions, challenge me. I love hard questions. But also open your ASANA and try to do what I'm doing yourself. See if you have issues. Obviously, after the call, we have still our support to help you. But during the call, it's the best moment for you to have a look at what we're doing, try it yourself, and have your questions coming up right now. And finally, just have fun. Work is important, but we're also here 8 hours a day, so let's make sure you enjoy it and make sure we have a good time together. I have some chat questions. Tracy, better. Thank you, Tracy. So today we're going to look at cross-working across different teams. We're going to look at different subjects. The first thing we look at is something we've covered. So some of the things we've covered in other sessions we'll be covering again today. But today is an advanced session. So today is for people who are looking at pushing the boundaries of ASANA and trying to set up more complicated setup and having a more advanced solution. So we're going to start by having a look at sharing and access. So a quick reminder and review of how we set up access in ASANA through teams, through projects, how we share the information, but also having a look at how that impacts your user count and your licenses, whether it's for internal users or external users, and how we can sometimes try to not exceed our licenses, and some solutions to sometimes work without adding too many licenses. The second, project and services. So cross-collaboration can happen between people on a single task. That's the usual and the most common idea that we'll have. But today we are here to push the boundaries. So again, this is an advanced session. And what we are going to have a look at is how can we actually set up projects where some of the tasks in our projects requires other team to collaborate with us. And we're going to take an example, which will be an installation of a setup. I think it's an audio system in a house or something like that. And we'll be requiring our purchase department, our procurement department to raise purchase order for us as part of our project. So how do we actually set up projects where when we are the project manager and we roll out our project, we're going to need to use competence and services from other teams. That could be a marketing team, that could be a team in our case, or a finance team. But how do we leverage all that? And then we have a little zoom on something we covered in some 101 session, which is defining services. We do a quick fly over on this one because it's an entire session normally, but just as a reminder. And finally, we'll have a look at how all this setup enables us to manage our projects, monitor our workload of our teams, and ensure that we maintain our timeline on projects. So, as usual, the usual questions before we start working. How are you today working with other teams? And please use the chat to give me your answers. The question is really, how today are you interacting with other teams when you need something done? So if you are in a project, as we mentioned, you are setting up a new site for an office or a restaurant for some of our customers today. Yes, email, team, thank you, Tracy. MS Teams, thank you, John. How are you asking for other teams to collaborate and to help you? And how are you collaborating and monitoring on the completion of that task? Talk in the office, that's a good one. The coffee machine is still there. That works very well if you still work in an office and if everyone is working in the office, that's wrong. Thank you for your answers. So there are issues with those MS Teams, emails, etc., is that they do not integrate with your project management tool. So today we're going to have a look at how, as a project manager, we will be able to manage our project, while we stay focused on the delivery of our project, but also request services from other teams. How can we do that while we're respecting their process of execution and delivery, providing them the right information so they can work, but also collaborate on delivering the work. I mean, when we raise a purchase order, in that case, we might have to provide information of the quantity, the cost, the provider, etc. If we request some marketing work to be done or design work, we might need to provide some assets or others. How do we stay informed on what's happening within the other team that's working with us? And on the other end, how are we going to enable our team to leverage other team services? So how can we give them an access to request those services? As I mentioned before, ensure that the process are followed. If I am the finance or the procurement team and I have a process to raise my PO or my procurement to raise a new order, how do we ensure that this team stay organized and is able to follow their processes while working on multiple projects? How can we trace if there is an issue in SLAs, if we work with another team and we have requested something but it's not done on time, or we have an issue, how can we trace back where the issue comes from? And so how do we keep people accountable for delivering their work as they promised to through their SLA? Now, today we're going to achieve several learning goals. The first one is we're going to go through the access of ASANA, see how we need to prepare the platform so that we can work together, and that will also cover collaborating on normal tasks as usual. How do we create interfaces and portals for our team to work together and request work from each other? And how do we report and monitor on this? Now, I'm going to jump into a demonstration of ASANA and start showing you the work. And I'm going to have some stops sometimes when we go into a new section. So give me a second to bring that screen. Always the Zoom interface is can be a bit hard to manage. New share. I'm going to share this one share. So you should now see up on your screen my ASANA. Can I confirm that everybody sees my ASANA on their screen? Someone can say yes on the chat.
We can see enabling collaboration through sharing settings.
And now?
Now we can see it.
Thank you, Tracy. You're the best. All right, so I am here in ASANA, and the very first thing we want to do, and that's a review for people who've been in previous sessions, but it's always important, is to understand how information is shared through the system. And as a reminder, ASANA is a collaboration tool. So when you work on different IT systems, you have different approach. If I work on a system that is a finance system, I'm going to close everything and simply open to different people access to the elements they need to have access to, because I don't want to share all the finance information to everyone. Same with an HR system. But as we are working with a collaboration tool, we're going to take the opposite approach. We want to open as much as possible and then just close where we need to have something confidential. In ASANA, the management of your access to information is done at a project and a task level, but can be defined generally in teams. So on the left-hand side of your screen here, you have your teams. And when you create a team, you will be able to define what are the people in this team, and then add projects to this team on which they will have a default access to. Now, when you define a team, there are 3 different types of team. So if I create a new team here, I can make it public to the organization. This means that this team will be here for collaboration, really. We can put a project in there. Everybody will see the project by default, and we'll see later how to override that. And everybody can collaborate. We can make it private, which is the opposite. The team is invisible to everyone unless we invite manually people to the team. Or we can make it membership by request, which means that the team now is visible, but what's inside the team is not visible, and people can request access. And when we do so, I'm not going through the detailed setting today, but you have the ability to define who can accept or reject someone who wants to join the team. Now, when we create the team, we are able to put projects in the team, and realistically, all the access are managed at a project level. So on my project, and I just take one randomly here, I will have this share button on top. This share button is available on project. It's also available on portfolios, on goals. So the same concept applies to other elements in ASANA, but today we focus on projects. When I click on share, I will have the ability to see what are the members that have access to that project. And as you can see, at the moment, I am in the ASANA demo team. So I can see that everyone that is part of this team will have this access. So they will have a project admin access, or an editor access, or commenter access. So one of the ways to set up the system is to say everybody that is in the team will have an editor access and collaborates in the work. Everybody that is not in the team will then have a different access here that we can override at a personal level. But you can also say that people in your team have just commenter access, and then override that at a person level to say, well, Chris is part of the ASANA demo team, therefore he has a commenter access. But because I'm working with Chris on that project, I need to give him more access. I'm going to give him an editor access in this case. And as a reminder, a commenter can only comment on the tasks, still sees all the custom fields and the description, but cannot change it. It cannot complete the task. An editor can change the status of a task, can change the status of a custom field, and can also comment. And a project admin will be able to modify the parameter of the project, such as adding workflows, adding custom fields, and others. So when we create our project, we will place it into a team. You always have to place a project in a team, and that will define the default access of the people in that team. And after, we can invite people that will have their own access, or we can override it for a person of that team. Now, there's another setting in each of your projects, which I don't have here because I'm not the project owner. If I take this project here, I should have it. We are able to make the project private. Here, I don't know why I have an issue in access. But we are able to make the project private. When we do that, sorry, the interface changes all the time. When you make the project private, you override the access that's set up at the project level. And so even if it's in a team, if you make your project private, people within the team won't see it, only people you invite. Now, another important thing to know about the project is this is the access we give to the entire project. But when we are in our project here, we have tasks. And sometimes we're going to need to collaborate just on one task with a product, with somebody else. In such case, you can click on the task and you can add someone as a collaborator here. There's several ways to add someone as a collaborator. The first way is to come down here, click plus, and add the name of the person. If this person doesn't have an ASANA account, you can write their email address, and that's going to send them an invitation. If they do, it's going to add them just to this task, and they will be set as a collaborator. So they can work on the task, edit it, and collaborate with you. But when you give them access to this task, it's not going to give them access to the entire project. You will just see the task that's been added to. So that can be very useful when you work with external providers. For example, you have an external team that takes care of your marketing, and you need to request them to work on an asset here. You can invite them to ASANA just on this task, and they can collaborate here on this task. Now, that touches the second point, which is the licenses. ASANA comes with paid licenses and guest licenses. The guest licenses are free, and they can be used for anyone who is external to your organization. It's unlimited. You can have 1 million of them. The people that have guest licenses have pretty much the same access right in terms of using the project, but they have access only to the task and the project you're giving them access to. So they're not part of any other team. They don't see anything else than what you invite them to. And the benefit is obviously when you want to collaborate with someone external, so a provider, but it could also be a customer, you can invite them to a task and they can collaborate with you there. So again, just as a reminder and a summary of what we've just covered, in ASANA, the access is defined at the project level. In the case of goals, at the goals level, but we work on project and task today. At the project level, you will define the access to all the tasks in your project. There can be some predefined setup, which you will do in the share here and will apply to your team. You can override that setup by going one by one for each person, giving them a different access. And you can also override that setup for a specific task by inviting someone to a task. Finally, you can invite people external. They won't consume a license. They will only see the tasks that you've invited them to, or the project. You can also invite them to a project. And that's really the base of collaborating between teams, is giving the right access to the right person. To close this subject, my recommendation when you start deploying ASANA in your team, because I know some of you today are rolling out internally new teams, my recommendation is always set up a team for your team. It sounds a bit repetitive, but set up an environment where everybody in the team can collaborate. Invite all the people from your team and leave those projects open. Then, when you need to have a space where you work on, say, an executive team where you have a restricted access, where you want to make sure those projects are not shared with everyone, create another team and then restrict the access there. But by default, try to leave things open as much as possible, because ASANA is a collaboration tool. And the worst thing that could happen is that people want to work, but they don't have access to the information. Bye-bye, Dion. It was nice to have you. So leave things open and then close when needed. Start with a team that actually has access to everything for your team and share the information. Now, today, we're going to cover a specific point, which is how we're going to make collaboration through projects. I'm going to use that screen, even so it's not perfect. I have a little bit of an issue with your screen. So what do we want to do today? Well, what we want to do today is enable our teams to work together. So we might have a project, and we have other teams that are working on other projects. And I'm going to take that example of a marketing team who delivers assets on requests, or again, a procurement team who's going to procure for us when we need to deliver something. Those teams have their own processes. We need to respect them. And in your organization, you're going to have a list of different teams and departments, and each of them provide a list of services. So the very first thing I would advise to do is to have a look at who in your organization, which department is using ASANA, and try to set up a dictionary, a menu, if you want, of all the services that are available between your different services, different departments, so that you can make that available to other people who are going to run projects. When you are going to prepare your collaboration, what you need to have a look at is what is available. Does the procurement team offer me the ability to procure? Does the marketing team have an interface for it? And if they don't, maybe engage with them so that they start having that in place, so you can start interacting with them in ASANA. There are multiple benefits of doing that, and we've covered that in another session, which was building your own service projects. If you're interested, please message in the chat, and we can have Amy sending you a link to the recording. But building the services and then selecting the one you need for your project. In the exercise today, again, we're going to have the setup of a home hi-fi system as a project, and we're going to have to procure different elements into that project. Now, the second question that you want to ask yourself once you've selected what external services you need to execute on your project, you're going to need to actually define how you want your team to interact with those other teams. And we're going to see 3 different ways to interact with the other team. One through task template, one through project template, and one through forms. And then what you want to understand as well, and make sure that it's working, is that each of those teams have their own processes. And those processes have SLAs normally, so they will guarantee more or less that they deliver you a service within a time frame. They have rules, they need to receive some information, etc. So you want to make sure before you start setting up your project that those SLAs and those services you're going to use within your project matches the constraint of your project. If my procurement team needs 60 days to deliver my new Sony TV for my home theater that we're going to build, then I need to have that embedded in my project. Otherwise, I'm going to be lured and my project timing is going to be. So quite important as well, review the different services that you have and make sure that they match with your expectations. Now, if we jump back into our demonstration, and I encourage you, everyone, to open your ASANA and play with it and try to do similar things that I'm doing. I'm sorry, I've got people jumping in and out. I've created here a project template. This is a project, actually. It's been created from a project template. And my project today is going to be the deployment of an equipment, a hi-fi equipment for a home where we want to install a home theater. And as part of this, I have many different things in my project. I have tasks with due dates, I have assignees. I've created some custom fields here as well. All this is part of other sessions where we show you how to do all this. I'm not diving into it. Again, today we're in an advanced session. But in that project, I have different people who are in charge of different steps. And some of those steps are going to involve ordering audio components, tracking the order, or maybe in that project, I'm going to need to be able at some point to order new elements that I don't know yet at the beginning of the project. So there are different ways to do that. First of all, we need our procurement team to have a service project. I'm going to show you that in a second. The second part is once we have a service project from the other team, we're going to need to be able to interact with them. In our case, we've created here a procurement project, which has different stages. So this is again part of the service training. So I'm going to come at a high level here, but essentially when you have a service project, what you do have is you have requests coming in, and then you have different stages to deliver your requests. And you have rules with automations that are going to define what happens at each. Now, this project, this service project that we have here, has been prepared by my procurement team. I am not the procurement team. I am the project manager who's going to deliver my home theater installation. And as part of this, they have these different stages. They also have here maybe a form. They can build a form that actually helps us to request the services from them. And again, that is not part of the training today. Today, we are looking at how we actually build and interact, but building a service project is a whole different topic. Now, in that service project, I also recommend you to use the project descriptions here to indicate to people how they will interact with you, what is the SLA that they will be using, that you'll be delivering, and how they can use your services. You can do it here. You can also do it in the forms if you use forms to request the service. When you define your service project, you will define the process. You will also define the information that you need to capture on your request. And this is defined by custom fields. So here I have different custom fields that I use in my delivery from procurement, and those fields are required for me to execute on this project and execute on a request. So as a service department, I have defined my service. What do I offer? In that case, procure. What are the information that needs to be provided? What is the process that's going to be followed? And in the description of the project, I can give information on the time frame, on the constraints that I offer, that I require to execute on this project. But again, we are not the service provider here. We're actually going to build a project, and in that project, we will require some tasks to be operated by the procurement team. So when I build my project template, I'm going to have 3 different ways to interact with those teams. The first one, which is probably the easiest one, is to put into a task, that into a demo, I think I have a demo one. Here is the exact same project, just another instance. I can embed in my project a task in which I say what needs to be done. Please raise a purchase order using the form, and here we can copy the URL of the form that is provided by the procurement. So go to the procurement project. Those link to forms are available here, so I can copy the link. You can also find it on your homepage. You have the list of forms that are published in your organization and that you have access to. You can see here the list of the different services that are available by different teams and that you can use within your project. You can then copy the form as well and put it into your demo project in the description of the task. You'll get there so that people can use it. Paste it here. And now when I execute the project, people now who are on that task, say that task is assigned to Diana and it's for today. Oops. She can come to that task, she can open it, and she can click here, and that will redirect her to a form where she can actually request from the procurement team an execution of the procurement, so purchase order. That's one way to do it. That's probably one of the most flexible and loose-end way to do it, is to just provide a link and tell people to use that link to request. The second way to do it is, in my project, I know that every time I'm going to deploy a home theater, I'm going to have to do several orders. So I will build my project, and within my project, I will build tasks. And those tasks here will actually be included in my project and automatically as well in the procurement team project. Which means that when I create my project from a template, it's going to create automatically those tasks and start automatically the procurement process, because it will create them and send them to the procurement team and put them in the section requested. So at the moment I create my project, it will automatically create all those requests and it will start the process for me. That's the second option. The third option is to say, well, I might need to order things later or not. And I want to leave that option available to people who runs this project so that they can use this. In my project, I'm then going to create a task template. And that task template is going to be a purchase order. So essentially, this is done through the customization of your project by setting up a task template. And when we create that task template, we say when this task template is created, add automatically the request to the procurement team in the section requested. Now, my team who executes these projects or another will be able, when they need to, request a purchase or request an asset for marketing or request something else. So you can create those tasks. And when I click here, it creates the purchase order. It's already added. It will be added in a few seconds. Here we go to the procurement team, and it has all the fields that the procurement team requires to execute the project. Now, there is a loophole in that solution. You need to be careful when you set up your task template that either you give instructions to your team to provide the right information for the procurement team to work, because there is no control here when you create a task to make sure that we provide the right information. When you use a form, the form controls this input. You are the procurement team, you're going to ask each of the questions, each of the documents that you need to be able to procure. But in that case, we don't have a control. So if we set up a task template, we need to make sure that in the task template, the right information are pre-filled. That's part of the task template. Or that we provide information here so that the person who creates the task knows what to do and is able to actually execute and provide the right information. Otherwise, you might end up with a procurement request that doesn't have the information, and then you go back to square one. We miss this information, we miss the budget, we miss the timeline, etc. So that's the third way. And to summarize, the first way to provide the service in embedded will be to actually provide a link to the form. The benefits of this one is that you will use a controlled environment where your user will be able to fill the information as defined by the service provider, the other team. The drawback of that is you have to actually re-execute it every time. Second option will be to put it in your project template and to pre-fill all the information into tasks. The benefit of that is it goes very fast, it's predefined, and it starts when you start your project. The backfire on that is that essentially you need to predefine everything, so that works only for tasks that are always the same in all your projects. And then finally, we have the purchase or the task template here. We can do different task template. And again, you can have 10, 20, 100 different for your project. And the benefits of that is that it's very flexible, but then you need to make sure that you provide the information you need for the other team to execute. If you don't have issues in execution. Now, if we look at that, the benefits of this is this.
Question.
Yes, Tracy, I was waiting for it.
So I just want to ask, I understand what you're saying, get it right, because that's how it will be. You can't really adjust it. That's fine. You would then have to add another subtask if something changed, I imagine. If I create that template for purchase as a subtask, if I want to adjust that, do I just create a new one and rename it version 2? Or can I override it, or do I wipe it away and recreate it? What's the impact if I wipe it away and it's disappeared now as a template? Everything would still stay that's been created, I imagine.
So I'm just going to re-say what you just said to make sure. You say in your project template, you want to add the template tasks. Is that? Yeah. So the project template are a mold, a blueprint.
Yep.
When you apply a project template, it creates a project, but once the project is created, there is no more link between the template and the project that has been created.
Okay, cool. So thank you.
Anything you change
that
now?
That answered the question. Yeah, so you can't, but I can't adjust that template then, can I? Have to recreate a new one if I want to change it. So you know how you said, once you create it, it's there, that's what it is. If I go, oh, shoot, we forgot 2 steps that we want included, can I adjust the template, or do I have to recreate it?
Totally, you can adjust. So if we go here, we're going to create a project. We're not going to do it, but we just want to access the library of project template. So I see my cross-team collaboration template here. I can click the edit button. If I have access to edit the template, I'll show you in a second how. And then I'll see all my tasks again. And I can also click customize, and I can create new task template here. So I have my purchase order here. I can modify it, or I can create a new one.
And it will only be effective when you create a new one using that. It won't adjust what's already being done.
That is correct.
Okay.
However, if you're saying, it's a very good question, if you're saying today, I want to apply all this library, this dictionary, my service list, my menu of all the services that I have on my organization, I want to apply it to existing projects. Then there's another way, which you don't do here. You create bundles. And in your bundle, so a bundle is a setup that you apply, is a default setup, like a patch that you apply to projects. In that case, you could create a bundle that you will call task template for services. And that bundle, when you create one, you can add sections, fields, rules, or task template. So you can imagine that you create a bundle, which is services at, in your case.
So small projects, large projects, you know, whatever.
Yeah, and in that bundle, like if you call it, say you call it services at my organization, not to name yours, then in that one you can create task templates here, and one for procurement, one for marketing requests, one for IT help desk, one for etc. And then you can apply that to every of your existing projects, and they will all receive now this new list of services that they can request through the project, the task template in their project. If you update a template, a bundle, it is now going to apply to all the projects that are linked to that bundle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, how does that? Yes, that's a complicated one, because what if you adding rules in that didn't exist? Is it going to force something that's halfway through to then do those rules that weren't there before?
Well, we were just speaking about the task template.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I've been told I'm going too far, so I'm trying to stay simple, even in the.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
But the
I
rules.
suppose same with the task template. This would be the same thing. If it's applying it back retrospectively, if something's already progressed past where the new task is I want to add in, is it going to flag that that's now past, and or it's going to go, oh, we're, you know, if the project we're working on and we're past that task that we've just applied, how's that work?
Rules will only apply to anything moving forward. So once
Okay.
you the rule, it doesn't roll back and apply on.
Same with the task templates?
Task template will be added. So once
Yep.
you've applied your bundle, it will be added to the list of task templates.
Oh, choice. Oh, yeah, in there. Okay. It doesn't add it to the task. It's adding it to as a choice. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Right. So now if I continue, I have now those tasks, and they are, you know, this, oops, if I go back out of my, and I go back to my demo project, I have this, oops. I have this task here that is actually in my project, but I am not running it. It's being run by someone else in another team. As a project manager, I still need to know, I want to know what's happening, how it's progressing, etc. So this will be executed by the procurement team. And it will be in the procurement here, somewhere, requesting, somewhere at the bottom, because I just added it. There's a lot. So somewhere here, I find it, or I don't. It will be added here, but I don't really want to be in the details of what's happening on procurement. This is not my job. I'm the project manager. I run my project. This is just one task. However, when this task is going to move to the next stage, then the stage is going to be updated. Here in that case, we have a percentage of completion. You could have other information that are pushed on the task. And when this is moving forward, then I would see it replicated on my project. So I would like to find this task so I can show you how it actually works. But if here, this task here, add to projects. So I'm going to take one of those. So if this order for an AKG wired microphone is moving forward to ordered, because the team has moved it forward to ordered in the procurement, me as a project manager, I can always come here and check the status of this one. If the team that provides the service use the due date, then the due date they update will be reflected in my project. And so I will know when my item, my SKU is scheduled to arrive. So their work is going to replicate on my project, and I'm going to keep visibility on what they're doing without being really involved. Now, we were speaking about collaboration. I'm just conscious of the time. We have 14 minutes left. You are also going to be able to interact with this team. So if the procurement team say at Martin, this SKU is out of stock, we need to order to the warehouse. The timeline is now 3 weeks. Would you want us to look for an alternative provider? So I'm now going to be able to interact, sorry for the typos, with my procurement team and solve those issues within my project without having to monitor in details what's happening. When they do that, it's in my project, I will receive a notification. And then we can make a decision together on how we solve the problem. And if they update the delivery date for 3 weeks later, in that case, it's far away, it will update my project. And all the tasks that depends from the delivery of that task are also going to be updated by planning as well. One of the elements I wanted to demonstrate to you today is also accountability. When you create that tasks and you send it to the procurement department, it will show here when that task was actually created. And every interactions that you have with this team or any interactions they have within the team on that task will show here. So you will be able to see what has happened when you requested it. Say procurement is not doing very well at the moment. That happens. They are delivering only on the 90 days instead of the 30 days they promised. And when you say it's 30 days, I requested it, everybody say, no, you just requested it last week. Well, now it's not the case because everything is timestamped and you know which stage it was, which time, and when it was inputted by who. So you have accountability and you have collaborations on resolving problems as well. So far, so good. Anyone has any question? A few people have dropped, they were busy. Anyone else than Tracy?
Ha.
No? Feel free, guys. It's really an open session. You know, there's no bad or good question. We're here to learn all together. So feel free to ask. I've got one question. John. All right, so now that I've created all that, I can continue and I can go back, and I'm reaching the end of this presentation, and I'm going to go back to managing my project. This project I have here, I can add it to my portfolio of production pipeline in that case. And now this demo is in my production pipeline. I can monitor it from here. I'm not going to have to monitor how procurement is doing. This is not my job. There's a person in charge of procurement. I'm in charge of it. And I estimate rightfully that people that are in charge of their job are going to do it. And if not, they're going to let me know and I'm going to solve the problem. So I can focus on my job. And when I look at the workload, I will be able to look at the workload of my people and focus on their work, not especially focus on what's happening into the procurement team. Equally, the procurement team will have the procurement project. They can add it to the portfolio. Procurement, team projects, project launches, on projects, let's say on projects. And then they will be able to monitor from their own list of work what is happening with their team. So if your team is providing a service externally, but is also running projects, that will enable you to have the service, the different projects, and you can then look at the workload and evaluate where people are busy. Are they busy with projects they're running, or are they busy with procurement requests that are coming all the time? And then you can start mastering where is the workload, where you need to add people, And you can also start measuring if you, with reports and dashboards here, you'll be able to build your own dashboard and start measuring if you are matching your SLA, if there is workload, if there's too much workload, if you have enough people, etc. So you can clearly separate first, as a project manager, what is internal to your team and what is done by another team. You keep an eye on it, you collaborate to solve problems, but it's not your job. It follows their process. You have followed their instructions on what they needed to get to work on. But then also, as a team providing a service, you are able to have a look at the workload of your team, measure where they're spending their time, looking at your project here in procurement and having a look at how things are progressing here, potentially having a dashboard just on the procurement itself to see how things are working, how many tasks are requested, ordered, how many tasks are added versus delivered. So you can see here, I'm not delivering anything. So we have a problem, we need to have a look at it. You could also set up in your service some SLAs, which I've covered in another session, but you could set up your SLA and start measuring that in your dashboard as well. Voilà. So it's very, very powerful because if you have a large organization, you can establish a list of services provided by each team. You can then make it available. You can integrate that to your projects, and it formats the way people interact, keep them accountable, and also enables you to unload yourself to other teams for what they're doing, they're here to do, which is normal, and focus on your own projects. It also ensures those teams that they receive what they need and they're able to continue working on their projects while providing a service. Well, that's all I wanted to cover with you today. It's an open session, so I hope that this session was satisfying. If you have questions, please jump in and ask now. It's a good time. If you have questions that comes after this presentation, remember that you can work at support@platinumpartner.com.au, and Marek and our team will be very happy to help you and to solve any issues you have or answer any questions. I'll leave a few minutes for anyone to ask any questions if you want to.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Tracy, for always being here. Anyone else? Pia, Jelena, Jen, John, Jolina, Locke, Marjorie, Reynold, Steve. Any questions? You're good?
Yeah, thanks, Martin.
Thank you, John. I hope you all find the session interesting and you got some interesting takeaway. And I hope my voice was better this time. And I look forward to our next session. I think we've got one tomorrow. It's around the 5 best app on ASANA for whoever want to join. The recording of this session will be sent to you shortly after by Amy, who will send it to anyone who was registered today. Thank you very much, everyone. Amy just posted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Martin. Bye.
And